Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products or you would like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. The FIAAA also wants to thank our great diamond sponsors, including Varsity Brands, featuring BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. Our other diamond sponsor is Hometown Ticketing. Hometown Ticketing helps thousands of schools across the country seamlessly provide convenient digital ticketing options for their communities, families, and fans. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Finally, we want to thank our great platinum sponsors, including Booster Digital Displays, revolutionize your game day experience. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. And Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Thanks to all of our great FIAAA sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is an old friend, Ryan Frost. Ryan is a certified master athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Cardigan Mountain School in, Canaan, New Hampshire.
Yes.
Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this for a while. It's great.
Just the scheduling has been crazy, but we're very glad to get you on and hear what's happening up in your corner of the country. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests a little bit. So tell us about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, and maybe how your path led you to Cardigan Mountain.
Sounds good. So I was born in Dallas, Texas. Grew up kind of all over the place. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. Illinois, North Carolina, Texas, Mississippi, even over in Scotland for a little while through school. By the time I was in sixth grade, my parents settled down. Dad got out of the Air Force, and we spent the rest of the time in North Carolina. Chapel Hill was home for me and where I grew up from sixth grade on. My parents have been there still. My dad just retired, but they're celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. So congratulations to them. My brother and sister, I have two younger siblings, one younger sister and one younger brother. They both still live. My brother lives down there in Chapel Hill with my parents, and my sister's in Texas, out in San Antonio still. So she's out there in the West. For me, I grew up kind of playing sports throughout my life, as I'm sure many of us did. Durham Academy was where I went to school from seventh grade on. Before that, I'd been a public school kid all my life. But joined Durham Academy in seventh grade, and that made a huge difference in my life as to my trajectory of where I went. Growing up, like I said, played sports, anything and everything, flag football, soccer, t-ball, basketball, lacrosse, racquetball, tennis, volleyball, skateboarding, biking, active kid. So anything and everything I could get my hands on to do was kind of what I did as a kid growing up. I was also active in Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout, and I think that had a huge impact on who I was and who I am today, without a doubt. And kind of taught me a lot about leadership and life lessons through scouting. One of the other things was I went to the Hill Center. I grew up with, at the time we called them learning disabilities at the time when I was growing up, but obviously today now learning differences. So the Hill Center was a part of Durham Academy, and that was probably a huge piece of my life as well that kind of set me apart, made me learn to appreciate hard work, dedication, and kind of growing through difficult times as a kid, with education. And so it gives me a great appreciation for kids today, and kids that struggle with, learning differences. So that's something that's probably a huge impact on my life and who I was. I would also say the other piece for me growing up in high school, just my friends and my coaches made big impacts on my life, and the trajectory I was, all along growing up through school. I thought I was going to, go off to medical school, be a doctor, a dentist, something along those lines. That was just what I knew. My dad was an oral surgeon, and my mom was a nurse, and all their friends were doctors. So it was that was what I knew. I didn't know about athletics and athletic director or being an athletic director, so I wasn't sure how that path would filter through. But fortunately, as I went through high school and into college, I met friends that kind of changed my trajectory. So when I got to college, my college assistant coach basically told me when he was leaving and I was graduating that he was going to call me the first time he had a job opportunity for me, and that really changed my path. He called me up and moved me in the direction of going into athletic administration. So I guess that's kind of a little bit back my background. My current state, my wife and I are married, getting ready to celebrate our 18th anniversary coming up this fall.
Well done.
And I could not, as any of us, could not do what I do without the support and care of her and my three amazing children, Caroline, who's 14, Natalie, who's 13, and James, who's 11. So that's really kind of my background as far as my family life and growing up. I think, sports, I can talk about my sports background a little bit and how that's kind of changed my trajectory. As I said, I grew up playing sports all my life, all around. I think a big impact when I was 6, my dad gave my first lacrosse sticks. He saw a game at University of North Carolina. Lacrosse has definitely been my passion for sports as I grew up. At 6th grade, I finally got a chance to play lacrosse for the first time, played rec lacrosse, and then joined the lacrosse team at Durham Academy. And that was a life-changing moment for me. I went from being a soccer, basketball, baseball, football kid to really lacrosse became the next passion and changed where I went with my life. Followed lacrosse through college. I captained my soccer team and lacrosse team in high school and played soccer and lacrosse through high school. Loved it. Had a great experience. Went off to play college lacrosse at Franklin and Marshall College, where I captained there as well and had a great experience and grew a lot. That was my life-changing moment. But then after college, was still kind of on that trajectory trying to figure out where I wanted to go. And Jason Miller, who had been my assistant lacrosse coach in college, he called and offered me a position to come up to Springfield College in Massachusetts to go work on education, athletic administration, and I jumped at that opportunity, and that was a life-changing moment for me for sure.
I always love to hear the stories and just reminded of the similarities, in paths from different individuals. For listeners, again, we're talking with Ryan Frost, who's the athletic director at Cardigan Mountain School in New Hampshire. Kind of unique setting. Take us very quickly, that path that brought you to Cardigan Mountain, and then just tell our listeners a little bit about what makes that school so unique.
Sure. So my path to Cardigan, obviously, like I said, I went on to Springfield College, did my athletic administration degree there. Got 2 master's degrees in education and athletic administration. From there, I went to the Kincaid School in Houston, Texas, where I worked for 6 years coaching and teaching. I was a physical education teacher there for middle and elementary school kids. And then I obviously coached and ran our lacrosse program at Kincaid. From there, really, we were talking about it a minute ago, the website, aerial views of Cardigan, and looking out on our lake in the fall foliage, as well as really I guess the teaching philosophy of the school and the education model of the school sold me on going to Cardigan. I wanted to be an athletic director. They had an AD opening. I needed to get back to New England for my wife and her family, as I had taken her away to Texas for 6 years, and that was the end of that. And it was a great opportunity for me. So I applied for the job, flew up, interviewed here at Cardigan. I was replacing an athletic director who had been here for 40 years. So, it was kind of one of those things that the program here was really strong. We're an all boys junior boarding school, which is an odd concept that I had never heard of until I got to Cardigan. We are 6th through 9th grade, all boys, about 225 boys most years. The majority of our boys are 8th and 9th graders, but we do have a small 6th grade and then a little bit larger 7th grade. Our boys are coming here from a variety of backgrounds all over the world. So we have international kids from China, Japan, Korea, Mexico, as well as other, various places around the world, smaller pockets, but those are kind of the bigger parts of our international population. Our boys are coming from all over the United States as well, predominantly from New England, but we get kids from Florida, we get kids from Texas and California and Washington, D.C., Chicago, you name it. And the boys that are coming here, they are coming for a variety of reasons. A lot of them want to go on to prep boarding schools in New England or around the country. And so they're coming here to kind of get that experience early on and prepare to go off to boarding school. Some of them are coming because they're kind of a second generation. They may have older parents that have had older children already, and now they're the younger one. It's kind of, okay, we're not sure how to handle our young middle school boy. What do we do with him? How do we keep him active? And so this is a place where the boy can come and be a boy and really learn to grow academically, athletically, socially, and really has a chance to kind of mature as a young man. And that's some of the things that we really pride ourselves on here is the whole boy education. We're working on their academics, their athletics. We're also working on their social skills and their leadership and just really how to be a good, well-rounded person through our core values and education system here. And it is a lifestyle being at a boarding school, especially with middle school boys. You are with them 24/7. And when they're on campus, it's fully immersed. We're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them. You're in the dorm with them, teaching them in classes, and then out of practices in the afternoon. So it's definitely a different model, but one that really spoke to me because of some of the things we do, especially athletically here, really kind of interests me.
No, again, for those of you who haven't been exposed, to the private school, the independent school, the boarding school model, it is, very unique. The last, I guess, 25 or so years of my career has been at independent or private schools. Only 1 year at a boarding school. So it is a very different and in many ways a very cool environment. You touched on it briefly earlier, and I want to take a little deeper dive. In our profession, we always talk about the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I'm curious, who were some of your mentors, either, parents or coaches you might have had growing up, or, people that you worked with or worked for? Obviously, in the boarding environment, you kind of described it, there's a lot of mentoring going on. So who are some of your mentors that you've had in your career?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's quite a few, and a lot of people have had a huge impact on my life over the years. I would say early on, obviously, it was my parents. They were big influences on my life and who I was. My scout leaders definitely were for sure, and my teachers at the Hill Center, which is that learning center that I went to as part of my high school. But I would say, early on, the biggest person that had the most impact on me and still does today is my high school soccer lacrosse coach, Joe Seibold, who's actually a head of school down there in Florida at Berkeley Preparatory School. Oh. So he was probably the biggest influence on me, kind of always asking me, why do you want to be a doctor? What are you going to do to serve the better world? And how are you going to be somebody that's going to help the greater good? And kind of pushed me a little bit to think about that in high school and even in college. I spent a year working with him the year after I graduated college, coaching soccer and lacrosse. And really that changed who I was and what I was thinking. And then when my friend from college, my assistant coach Jason Miller, called and offered me the position up at Springfield with him, that was it. I was done. I had changed 180 degrees. I was not going to be a doctor or a dentist or pursue that path any longer. I was going to go on into teaching and coaching, and really wanted to be an athletic director at that moment. And I probably didn't know exactly what it entailed, not like any of us do before you really get into it. But that was definitely a big part of it. Those guys changed my path for sure. Some other people that had big impacts, Coach Marion, who was the athletic director here at Cardigan before I got here. He was here for 40 years. I was lucky enough to take over for him, but then he was here for 5 years, kind of serving as a mentor and leader to me, as well as the boys and everybody else on campus. He was kind of the guy, that you walk out of the office or walk out of snack break, and he's there to, pat you on the back or, kind of kick you in the tail if you needed that too. And so he was a great influence. And then from there, I would say Bob Lowe, Martha Brousseau, George DeHaan. These are athletic directors in NEPSAC, which is the New England Athletic Association Preparatory School Conference here in New England. And those guys have really had big influences on me as an AD, as well as other mentors and friends in the NIAAA over the years. The last one I would have to say, I'd have to say my wife. She is a mentor, she is a friend, a partner, and somebody that constantly allows me to bounce ideas off of, helps shape my thinking, and keeps me grounded for sure, which has been a huge part of my life as well.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I just love to hear the stories and reminders that for all of us, none of us got here by ourselves. We had people pushing us, patting us on the back, or kicking us in the butt, whatever we needed at the time. Ryan, we get a lot of young ADs that listen to the podcast, and I think it's important to kind of share the story of, how we got to where we got. You and I, we're both CMAAs, that just didn't happen overnight. So real briefly, talk about, your journey with NIAAA and your state association and the things that you've done, maybe even beyond your CMAA.
Definitely. And I think for me, kind of like I said early on, I wanted to be an athletic director, but we don't ever really know what that entails until we get into it. I think early on, I took a class as I was leaving Kincaid to come to Cardigan through independent school management. It was basically an athletic administration intro course, or kind of opening up of the eyes to things and helping you prepare for that. That introduced me to the NIAAA, and they said, hey, you should join this. You need to get involved in this organization, even as an independent school versus a lot of public schools kind of find their way through state associations. So I jumped into the NIAAA and delved into the professional development. And I think I've always been somebody that's pride myself on being a lifelong learner. And I think that has been a huge part of my path through the NIAAA, is really, jumping into taking classes, finding out what's out there, learning, growing. And so I've taken tons and tons of LTIs and kind of taken all the classes, loved that, worked my way through and set myself as a goal to get my CMAA. And I remember sitting through the exam for the CAA and really kind of, that was a lot of pressure. I felt like at the time, it was like, I need to pass this. And I felt very, I guess some pressure to make sure I did it right the first time, and loved that experience. And then continuing through that, I felt like, my CMAA, when I had some things I had done, but I wanted to do something new for my project to get my CMAA. And so one of the things I did was I created a visitor's guide for our school that became both, published, and then now it's just digital that we share with everybody when they come to campus. So that was what I did for my CMAA. To get to that level. Also, I think from NIAAA, I've gained that continued idea of networking, professional development, and a love for going to the conference. And the conference is always a lot of fun. I was fortunate enough to also be with you, a member of the early, learning leadership cohort, and the NIAAA U, which now is just expanding and growing, infinitely at the moment. Being a part of that leadership cohort and being able to be with all the athletic directors from around the country, it's always a learning experience. And so that was a big thing that I really enjoyed. And I think I've taken out of the NIAAA. It's just that continued professional development, continued growth of learning and gaining from others, and hopefully, giving back a little bit too. My path is a little different as far as the state association. Being in a private school, we're part of the state association, but really kind of off on our own a little bit. And so I've really delved into kind of leadership roles in my independent school associations. I've been a secretary for our district. From there, I went on to be a middle school rep for NEPSAC. And then just recently, 2 years ago, I was selected to serve as the NEPSAC president. So I've kind of been NEPSAC secretary for 2 years. I'm getting ready to ascend to the vice president role for 2 years, and then I'll be the president of NEPSAC, which was kind of a huge honor for me to be selected by my peers for that role. And I look forward to doing that as part of my path through kind of different from state associations, but the same idea of what a state association might be.
Oh, no, absolutely. And congratulations on that. I am glad you mentioned the cohort. You and I were members of that very first, the original cohort group. So we've always got that. For our listeners, we're visiting with Ryan Frost, CMAA, and the Director of Athletics at the Cardigan Mountain School in New Hampshire. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be coming back. First, we're going to hear from our podcast sponsor, Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you would like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. We're back with Ryan Frost from Cardigan Mountain School up in New Hampshire. Ryan, one of the things that we like to do at the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What are a couple of things that you do at your school? Maybe there are initiatives that you thought of. Maybe they've been there for 100 years. But what are a couple of things that when you look at, you can say with equal parts pride and humility, boy, we do this better than anybody else. What are a couple of best practices at your school?
So I think for us, some of the things that we do that make us special and really kind of define who we are as a school, all of our boys in our boarding school environment play 3 sports all 3 seasons. So, we're fully against the sports specialization model and the fact that we're making them play 3 sports. So our kids come in, they may come in and say, I'm a hockey player, but they're going to play football, soccer, or mountain biking or cross country in the fall. And then they're going to do lacrosse, tennis, baseball, something else in the spring. And so I think our 3-sport model really sets us apart. With that, we have a no-cut policy also still at the middle school, which is great for us. All of our kids, if you have, say you're coming in from Mexico and you've never played ice hockey before, but you want to play ice hockey, we've got a team and a level for you. And so, all of our sports have multiple levels. Whether it's varsity, which is our kind of 9th grade, 8th grade level that plays a high school schedule, down to our rec programs or our beginner learn to skate programs. We have a place for every boy to kind of meet them where they are and help them get to their goals or the next level or whatever it is they're looking to get out of it. So I think that's something that sets us apart for sure. I think the other thing, because we're a boarding school and where we're located, it both helps us and hurts us in the fact that we have a teacher coach model. All of our coaches are teacher coaches on our campus, which is what I want and what I prefer, which is great. It's also difficult. If we needed to hire outside coaches, it would be hard. We're not really easily located near Boston or something like that. We're going to find teachers to coach outside of sports. But at the same time, I think our teacher coaches know our boys inside and out because they're sitting at the meals with them, they're teaching them classes, they're working in the dorm, and then they're coaching them on the sports field. So they really know our boys and are able to then reach them at a different level than you might with an outside coach coming into your program. I think the other thing that kind of really sets us apart too is the way our boys compete and play. We really push our boys, no matter what sport they're playing, no matter if it's their first, second, or third sport, to come out, compete, play as hard as they can, learn, grow. But compete with character and sportsmanship, and we really focus a lot on how we do that. Coach Marion, the AD I replaced, had a saying, knock them down and then give them a hand to help them back up. And so we strive to kind of continue that model and play that way, that we're going to play hard, but we're going to play fair and really compete within the rules of the sport that we're playing. And so not just within athletics, but our core values and our school philosophy and mission really permeate throughout campus. And the athletic department is just one more place that we're working to teach the boys and help them grow and learn. And so really, for me as an athletic director, I think our program is, co-curricular with our academics, with our arts, with our, residential program, and really just one more avenue that we're using to teach our boys life lessons. And it really, it's one of the things that drew me to Cardigan and keeps me here, is the passion for being able to do that and it being such a central part of our educational philosophy.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned those. You really hit the, Jake's triple crown there. The sportsmanship, knock him down, but help him up. The three-sport philosophy, and then also the teacher coach. I'm a little bit older than you, but 100 years ago when I was in high school and in junior high, that was the model. There were no outside coaches, and I know it's a different time, and we have some great community coaches, walk-on coaches, whatever you want to call them. But at our school, McClay, which is an independent school, the vast majority of our head coaches that are in charge of their program, they teach and work right on campus. And you're absolutely right. They build those relationships with the kids. They see them in the dining hall. They see them in the hallways and the classrooms. No knock against, the outside coach, the walk-on coach, but it's just, as we say, it's a best practice when you can have those coaches on campus. Great stuff.
Yeah. The one other thing I will add, sorry, I don't,
Sure.
Was about that, the sports specialization stuff, because that is such a huge driving factor in the culture of the world right now. And we're obviously a, expensive independent private school, and we're trying to, sell an expensive education. One of the things we do within our three-sport model is try to also then foster that skill development out of season. And so we have clubs 1 day a week, and then obviously Sunday weekend activities. We got to find something to keep the boys busy. So we do a lot of stuff out of season as well to help bridge that gap for those kids who feel like, oh, I have to be playing on my club team, I have to be training year round. So we try and help mend that fence of, you can come play three sports, you're still going to get skill development, and you're really not missing out because you're competing in other sports versus just training one season all year long. So that's something that I think we do a good job kind of balancing that out with our three-sport model.
No, and that's an important point. And also, as someone, who has been in the business, the profession for as long as you have, that typically those kids that are playing 2 and 3 sports, those are the ones that are going on to the next level in their favorite sport. You're always going to have your favorite. Right. The sports specialists, it doesn't always work out that way. So again, thanks for sharing that. Ryan, another question I've been asking our athletic directors revolves around this idea of social awareness or social justice. And my question is this, how can athletic directors do a better job of being socially aware for their constituents, for their kids, their coaches, and their parents? I'm going to bet you have a unique perspective on this question.
Yeah, and for me, for us, we have obviously a variety of kids on our campus. We've got kids coming from all over the world, and they're coming from all different kinds of backgrounds. And so for me, I think the biggest thing as an athletic director is, again, it's going back to that lifelong learning. You always need to be kind of learning and aware of what's going on culturally. And for us, it's not just, within our state or in our community, it's, globally. And so we're kind of paying attention to what's going on in China and how those kids are interacting, or what's happening in their world, what's going on in Mexico, also what's going on, in the inner cities or other more diverse places than Canaan, New Hampshire. Because, outside of our boarding school bubble, Canaan is a pretty homogeneous area. There's not a lot of diversity in our area. And so that's something that we are aware of and kind of watching our boys go out and interact with society. We're trying to make sure that we're understanding what they're seeing, how they're being influenced. And I think for us, it's that idea of continually learning, but keeping our eyes, ears, and our hearts open to what's going on and really paying attention to it and helping our boys navigate, the worlds of, social media, the influences they're seeing on the news. And, if you watch one news channel, you're getting one story. And if you watch another news channel, you're getting a totally different story. And how is, where's the common ground? Where's the middle ground on that? And so I think for us as athletic directors, you kind of have to be aware of what's going on. You have to have your ideas, but you have to be open to listening and learning from others and their ideas and their experiences, and trying to, again, find that common ground that you can meet at and help. And I think when you're working with young kids, they're learning, and everything you say or do, they're taking it all in. And so you need to make sure that you're aware of your actions, your words. And then I think you have to be watching, the locker room, the bus, your team, the culture, and paying attention and listening to what's going on, because you want to make sure that you're addressing those issues that, somebody as a middle school boy, they may say something because they heard it on the news or they heard it on a YouTube channel or something else, and they're going to say something and not even know what they're saying. And if you don't address it, then you're condoning it. And so I guess that idea of if you permit it, you promote it, which is something my assistant head used to say for years. If we don't address the injustices or address, cultural differences, if we don't talk about it, or we let things go when somebody says something negative, then we're promoting that negative behavior. So I think that's a big piece, is kind of being open to listening, learning, and making sure you're addressing those issues head on, not just letting them go by under the radar.
Oh, absolutely. I love your phrase, another version of one of my favorites. Everything you see is either coached or it's allowed.
Yep.
Which one is it? So appreciate you sharing that. Well, Ryan, this has been kind of cool catching up. We don't get that cohort experience like we did with the rest of our members and Daryl Nance, but this has been cool. But we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you're certainly an experienced AD and award-winning athletic director, but right now I'm going to task you with sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. What 3 items are going to go in Ryan Frost's athletic director toolbox?
So I think the first one, and I thought about this a little bit, and kind of, I started reading your book, which I also didn't want that to influence me too much, because it's been outstanding read that I was down at the beach.
Thank you.
But really, I think one of the first things is, be prepared. And I would take that from the Scout motto of be prepared. And when I say be prepared, it kind of means a lot of things. For me, it's carrying an extra pen in my pocket every day. So I have one for myself. And then if somebody needs a pen, I can whip it out and hand it to them and share that pen with them. Whether I get it back or not, I always have 2 in my pocket. For us on campus, we have a plan of the week, and it's a minute by minute detail accounting of what's going on our campus. I carry a hard copy. I have a digital copy, obviously accessing my phone, but I carry a hard copy with me everywhere I go so that I can have access to that and address things as needed or know what's coming next. And I think also part of being prepared as an athletic director, you got to deal with anything and everything that comes your way. Lightning, buses not showing up, officials not showing up, a problem at a game, you name it. And I think being prepared, having a plan A, B, and okay, now I just need to rethink and reevaluate. Being prepared is a huge part of being an athletic director and being a leader in your community and campus. And so I think that would be number 1, is be prepared. I think number 2 would be, serve. We are definitely servant leaders and have to be servant leaders. As an athletic director, you're here to serve the student athletes, the coaches, your school, your program, your community. And I think, being really willing to roll your sleeves up, help out. I go out of my way to try and make sure that my coaches who are doing dorm duty, doing dining hall duty, teaching, that when they show up to coach, they have everything they need. The fields are lined, the cones are there, the balls, pennies, whatever they need for practice or a game or travel, they've already got it. And so my job is to serve them and make sure they have everything they need as an athletic director, so they can come out, coach, focus on the kids, and really deliver a top-notch program. And I think the other part of servant leadership is also being thankful to the people that are there to serve, work for you and help you do what you do. So the grounds, the coaches, the student athletes, the officials, the bus drivers, I go out of my way to try and make sure I'm thanking them and publicly acknowledging the jobs they do behind the scenes that allow me to be the athletic director that I want to be to serve our community. And so I think that's a big piece, always being a servant leader and realizing that you're there to serve others and make their experience of their life better through what we do. And I think the last thing as an athletic director, I got a piece of advice when I first became an AD was really just to keep a smile on my face and enjoy it. Have fun, always smile, welcome other people. We're lucky to do what we do. And I think that that's a big piece of having fun, enjoy it. We're working with kids, we're working with coaches. I view it as the best part of the day every day for the kids. You can see them running down from lunch or class, and they're geared up to come out to athletics and have fun. And so we should, get that same joy out of it and enjoy what we do and keep that smile on your face, because you're out there helping other people and you're having fun. And that's just a big part of what we do is make sure you enjoy the experience. There's a lot of people out there, and I remember when I wanted to be an AD and you're trying to interview and get those jobs, and you haven't had a title and you haven't had this, once you're an athletic director, realize there are a lot of other people that would love to have your job. And so enjoy it and remember it's a lot of fun.
I'm glad you finished on that one. The first two are outstanding, but again, our job, you're right. It's unlike any other, and it is fun. I mean, I'm sure you go through your day a couple of times and go, gosh, they're paying me to do this. I can't believe it. So yeah, absolutely. If you're not having fun, you're in the wrong field.
Yep.
Ryan, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out to you and maybe pick your brain a little bit, and I encourage you to do so, how can they get in touch with you?
Best way is to email me. They can go on the website or they can get my email. It's rfrost@cardigan.org. At any time, just like all of us, I got my cell phone in my pocket and happy to email. And then from there, we can get on the phone or get on a Zoom nowadays with this, or connect in person. Always willing to help new ADs or old ADs. And, there's been tons that have helped me over the years. So anybody and everybody, would love to hear from you. If you got a question or, something I can answer for you, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I'm sure it's on the NIAAA portal, but go ahead and give them that email right now.
It's rfrost, FROST, at Cardigan, CARDIGAN.org.
Okay. Ryan Frost, CMAA, Cardigan Mountain School. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, my friend.
No problem. Thank you very much. This is great. I really appreciate it.
To our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews are being uploaded to the FIAAA Educational Athletic Director YouTube channel. Thanks again for listening. Come back again next time for another episode of The Educational AD.
Thank you.